Hello and welcome to Toastmasters in the Community. I'm your host, Fran Okeson. With me is Jane. Oh, Jane. Jane. You can say it for me. I'll practice between now and the next time.
Costayola.
Thank you. I know I'm going to get it. I'm going to ask you to put it on my book spelled out. For you people at home or who are just tuning in, this show I'm starting with table topics. So please don't think you missed the show. But my first responder has an emergency and has to leave right away, so we've turned the show around so that she wouldn't have made the trip to the CTV studio for naught. So, Neha, and I've been practicing Neha's name. She's from India. So, you know, the more, I love meeting people at these conventions who come from other places. Sometimes it takes a little longer for me to get the names right, you know. But anyway, Neha Awasthi. I've been practicing with the T and the H. Awati. I've been doing that all week. I go in. Neha I can do, but then she spelled her name out in full, and I figured Neha is fine for me. Awati. She said you have to. Why is the T there if you don't use it? Awasti. You know.
Awasti.
Well, I do use it. It's Awasti.
Awasti.
I love it the way you say it. All right. Here's your question. If you could travel, and let me just say that these questions were given to me, thank goodness, by Colleen and Myrhall, and I'm going to tomorrow ask her to send me another 20 because we needed all that extra time for all the rest of her questions on the first meeting today. So your question now is, if you could travel in a time machine, where would you go? Neha.
Thank you, Fran. Fellow Toastmasters, viewers at home. If I could travel back, I would like to rewind my life 15 years back, actually. That's when my father was alive. And if I was back in time, I would do a lot of things differently. And I would do everything to make him happy. All of you who have parents, mom, dads, just understand that they're your biggest blessing. And you should do everything you can to make them happy so you don't have regrets like I do. So if I could go back, I would love to go back 15 years and relive some time with my dad. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Neha. Say hello to your husband for me.
I will.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and now we'll follow the script. Joan Maurizio, thank you. Okay, Joan, you have a very short question, but I'm interested in your answer. Who was your favorite teacher? Joan Maurizio.
I had a favorite teacher in every school I went to, but I'll stick with the last school I had. And that was the teacher that asked me to tutor math. He saw that I did well in my marks. I got up and I explained things to the other students while we had our class. So I said, you know what, you could be one of my helpers, one of my tutors. We did everything we could to get the girls to graduate. And when we saw they were getting 50s and 60s in math, we knew it had to be over 65, preferably 75 or better. And I did actually help a few people, so that was one of the nicest things I had. And not just that, he had a sense of humor. He wasn't afraid to laugh with us, and we had a lot of fun in his class. So I have to say, I wish every teacher was like him. And going back, I just want to mention one teacher's name, Mr. Appleson. He told jokes in history class, and that is how we learned our lessons. He was fantastic, too.
Thank you very much, Joan. I think everyone could answer that question for a favorite teacher, right?
Maybe more than one.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. Rachel, oh, I love this one for you, and I have to see what you say. Who's your favorite Disney character, Rachel?
Who is my favorite Disney character? I would say it's the... oh, come on.
Senior moment, Rachel?
A senior moment. The Imagine Dragon from Fantasia, because I always want to dream. I always want to imagine something for the future beyond where I am, beyond what I can think about. And so that little dragon is a statue that's on my desk to always remind me to think about something beyond what we can think or comprehend today. I guess that goes with the fact that I'm an engineer, and I look to make new things possible. Fran?
Thank you very much. Is Isaac in the room, or is he? He is. Oh. Everything is so dark. Do you see? I can't see a thing beyond this light. Thank you, Isaac. Isaac, would you describe your perfect vacation? Isaac Galbinovich, our director.
Yep, you promised a good question, friend. Madam Table Topics, Master, my viewing audience, my fellow Toastmasters in the room here. I absolutely love to travel. Okay, I live to travel, and it's something that you discover the world, because once I heard the phrase that world is a book, and if you do not travel, you just read the cover. Okay, and that's why traveling is my passion. Perfect vacation. I've had number of absolutely phenomenal vacations. They were cruises. They were on land. They were in Hawaii. They were in South America. They were in Europe. So, like I said, I love to travel. The perfect one is the one that everything falls into place. It's active, and you can relax. And one of them comes to mind. It's Spain. Okay, we went to Spain with my family for 2 weeks, and it was absolutely phenomenal. Thank you.
Very nice. Very, very nice. Thank you, Isaac. Now, Linda Isaacs. Oh, yeah, this is a nice one. I picked out these questions as soon as the lady sent me the list. All right, Linda, I like this one. Did you ever read a book that altered your life? Linda Isaacs.
Did I ever read a book that altered my life? The first one that pops into my mind, I actually did a Toastmasters speech about it. It was speech number 10, because I found it to be a very inspirational speech. And for those of us who are familiar with the Toastmasters program, the last speech in the Competent Communicator Manual is about being inspirational. So what the book was about, the title is Learned Optimism. And what the book is about is learning to be slightly more optimistic. Apparently, science has shown that most of us have kind of a preset ability to enjoy life, I suppose, is one way to look at it. That many people are by nature more pessimistic or more realistic, depending on who's doing the describing. But that we can learn to upgrade how we see the world, and that actually did have a very positive effect on my life.
Thank you. I thought that would be a hard question. I don't know how I could have answered it, but she comes through all the time. Thank you very much, Linda. And now we will be starting our meeting where it was supposed to be started, but it's fun sometimes to turn things upside down. So we're going to take the same time frame, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, let's see. And we may have to call people up at the end if we have extra time. We'll see. All right. Let's see. Okay. All right. I guess I'll do my opening program. What I'm doing on this for this educational piece is talking about mentoring. And that's one of the things that we learn in Toastmasters is once we get a feel about the program, we're ready to mentor someone else. Now, you came to the meeting last Wednesday. You're coming this Wednesday. We do have a new lady coming who's going to join on Wednesday. And I may ask you, since now this is what, your second speech, the third will be Wednesday, correct?
This is actually my third.
Your third speech, so the fourth one will be Wednesday.
My fourth
okay.
one will be Wednesday.
All right. So you'll be in a position to tell her what your first couple of speeches or how you felt. Nobody scared you in any way, right?
No, not at all.
Not at all. We'll try next time when we get used to you a little bit. But anyway, mentoring is something that is something very personal between a mentor and a mentee. Now, when I got into Toastmasters, basically, Sister Alma Wedge was my inspiration. My friend Julie Porowski and I went to the Corner House restaurant. We saw something in the Staten Island Advance, and we met Sister Alma Wedge. And any of you on Staten Island who ever met Sister Alma Wedge, you know that when she says something, she means it. She's a sister of charity, and they're not like my Sisters of St. Joseph. Sisters of Charity are another ilk completely. But Sister Alma Wedge, in fact, we celebrated her 97th birthday at one of our meetings, and she died at the age of 100 a few years ago.
Wow.
But a great inspiration. She mentored me. My first speech at the Corner House, I started to talk, and then I realized that my evaluator wasn't there. But then I was talking about my icebreaker, and she walked in, and I stopped so that the person who took my manual could give it to her. And then I was counted as running overtime. And when I had Sister and her traveling companion come to my house for dinner, she said, well, you know why you were told that you were overtime. I said, no, I tape recorded my first speech. It was 5.5 minutes exactly for a 5 to 7 minute speech. She said, no, but you stopped talking when your evaluator came in. I said, I was raised to be polite. Well, you don't be polite. Once you start talking, you finish what you're doing. You don't stop. If they're late, that's their problem.
Okay.
And that was Sister Alma Wedge. But we had a wonderful relationship all the years that I knew her. All right. So, benefits for mentors. All right. Now, one thing says here, learn from the mentees. Now, today, if I were to, I did give Deborah this morning some information about something I caught in her speech. She thanked me for it, which means mentors can learn from mentees and vice versa. All right? You learn to do something for others. Toastmasters is a place for mentors to feel comfortable. And when people do sign up, and one of the first questions they'll ask is, what do I do? Come to a meeting, you can observe, feel comfortable, talk to some of the people in the club, find out how comfortable they are. And as you see, some of our speeches from this morning's meetings, some are serious, some are mind-boggling, some are fun, like the dog sweet pea. You can make a speech about anything as long as it fits into the guidelines. Qualities of the mentors. Now, I consider myself a mentor. I'm available. I try to be patient. All right? Not when I get my black pants on and my cats want to walk between my legs and get hair all over. I am not patient. They have to be sensitive, respectful, flexible, supportive of the club, have to be knowledgeable. You can't go and give information unless you know that that's the correct information. You have to feel confident. You have to be a good listener. Joan and I went for 7 years to the South Beach Psychiatric Center with this club. This club, I founded, in September, will be 20 years old here in No Limits, but I found it to help people with special needs and handicaps. And we went to South Beach Psychiatric Center, and sometimes they just had problems that they wanted to discuss. One lady, it was summertime, and I wore a white jacket, my white summer jacket, whatever. At the end of the meeting, she came over and she said, I have to ask you something. You a doctor? Well, you have to realize who's talking. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm a Toastmaster. No, are you reporting to me, to them about me? I said, no. Why are you wearing a white jacket? You look like a doctor. I never wore a white jacket back there again because she was frightened by the white jacket. Joan and I spent 7 years. We went to South Beach Psychiatric Center on one Friday and the Carmel Richmond Nursing Home on another Friday, or I think it was a Friday. But there we had the seniors, and they were delightful. Absolutely. I hope when I get old, I'll be as delightful as they are. My son's in the control room probably laughing over the stool in there. But anyway, we had so much fun with the seniors there. Just to give you a story, and we didn't laugh at them. You have to laugh with them. Like this one man forgot his manual, so I said, well, do you have a wallet, Tom? I think his name was Tom, whatever. I said, why don't you tell us what's in your wallet? He went through he had cards from when he worked. He had like a train transfer card, and it brought back memories to him, and he felt so good. Another lady, it was right after Mother's Day, and she said, I want to tell you what my children did for Mother's Day, and she started crying, and we didn't know what was going on. They picked her up at Carmel Richmond Nursing Home, and they took her to Atlantic City for the day. They stopped someplace and had breakfast, had a nice lunch, had dinner. They brought her home, and she's bawling. And Joan and I looked at each other, and I said, why are you crying? They never brought me a present for Mother's Day. But they gave you the day. But I had nothing to unwrap. So you don't know. But being a mentor, you don't laugh at the person. You just try to get inside their skin and figure what they're thinking about. And this mentoring at all levels, even the international presidents. Dilip Abhisekar, a past international president from 2005 to 2006, is a member of our Smedley Speakers Club. And I email him, and sometimes I call him when I have a question that I want answered. And he's very free with his information. A lovely, lovely man. Has a lovely wife, too. So, qualities of the mentees. What about the mentees? Do they come in with an attitude? They come in because they want to learn something. We're the ones who can teach them. All right? They have to be eager to learn. If someone just wants to come in and try to sell a business, forget about it. We pick that up very, very quickly. In CTV and even in Toastmasters, you're not supposed to get out there and say, here's my card, here's my card, here's my card, tell all you people. It's not that. Tell us about what you do in your job, and if we want to talk to you about that particular thing, then we can ask you anytime. Okay? They have to be receptive. This is a whole new program coming. We all have to learn this new program, or we're expected to. All right? They have to be open to new ideas. Now, this is the first time. Next month, on our June 2nd show that we're taping, the 2 shows, one morning, one afternoon, we'll be starting our 14th year on CTV. And it says open to new ideas. Today we had an emergency. The young lady was here to answer a question, had to leave. We turned the whole show upside down and did table topics first. So all these things, it's a relationship that's built up between the mentors and the mentees, and there's something good to be had by both parties. And that's the end of my idea on mentoring. Okay, thank you very much. And it does work. Okay, now we'll move on to the next person is, oh, good dear Lord. Jane, all right, say very, Jane
Costaiola. Costaiola.
You said it better than I could. Thank you, Jane.
I've had more practice.
That's right. Come to the meeting Wednesday a little bit early, and you and I will have a session.
And we'll practice.
Yeah, I put Y's every place, but I guess I was putting them someplace else. All right, you're doing speech number 3, which is get to the point. You have 6 minutes. Everyone does on this show, this meeting. I call it a show here because this is TV, but it's really a meeting. Okay, Linda Isaacs is your evaluator, and I like your title. It's Overcoming Fear. Let's all welcome Jane, you know who. That's your new last name, you know who.
Thank you very much, Fran. Okay. And thank you for welcoming me into the Toastmasters Club. I absolutely love it. I
just so your first speech, your icebreaker was fantastic.
Yes, so this is definitely something I have been enjoying right now.
Okay, now go in your speech now.
So, what or who are you fearful of? Could it be snakes like Indiana Jones, or could it be your mother like Ray Barone from Everybody Loves Raymond? Is it your boss, your wife, your husband, your children, your clients, strangers, or is it public speaking? We could be fearful of making decisions, being alone, being with people, driving, dying. It could be anything. Most people fear something. Some people have paralysis by analysis. They analyze every aspect of a situation until they're paralyzed by it. You may know someone like that. You may be like that. Fear can take over someone's life. Whenever you make a change in your life or you put yourself in an unfamiliar situation, you can experience fear. Often, this can stop you from moving forward, possibly missing out on positive experiences because you are afraid. Now, how do you overcome fears? Acknowledging your fears is the first part of the process. Taking responsibility for your life is another part of the process. Then, taking steps to overcome your fears is the culmination of the process. Now let's dive into the process. What are you afraid of and why? Now there are 3 levels of fears. Level 1 fears are things that happen, like aging, retirement, loss of financial security, natural disasters. Some fears are those requiring an action, such as going back to school, making friends, starting or ending relationships, losing weight. Level 2 fears are rejection, success, failure, being conned, helplessness, or disapproval. And level 3 fears is just, I can't handle it. Now, at the bottom of every one of your fears is simply the fear that you can't handle whatever life may bring you. And let's see what level one fears feel like. I can't handle getting sick. I can't handle getting old. I can't handle losing my job. Now let's see what level 2 fears feel like. And it's, I can't handle failure. I can't handle the responsibility of success. I can't handle being rejected. And level 3, simply, I can't handle it. The truth is, if you know you could handle whatever happened to you, what would you have to fear? And the answer is nothing. All you have to do to diminish your fear is to develop more trust in your ability to handle whatever comes your way. Say, whatever happens to me, given any situation, I can handle it. Now, there are 5 truths about fear. The fear will never go away as you continue to grow. The only way to get rid of the fear of doing something is to just do it. The only way to feel better about yourself is to go out and do it. Not only am I going to experience fear whenever I'm in an unfamiliar situation, so is everyone else. And number 5, pushing through fear is less frightening than living with the underlying fear that comes from the feeling of helplessness. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty. 7 ways to reclaim your power. Number 1, avoid casting blame on an external force for your bad feelings about life. Number 2, avoid blaming yourself for not being in control. Number 3, be aware of when and where you play the victim role. Number 4, familiarize yourself with your biggest enemies, your inner chatterbox, that inner negative voice. Number 5, figure out the payoffs that keep you stuck. Number 6, determine what you want in life and act on it. Number 7, be aware of the many choices you have in any situation that comes your way. Choose the path that contributes to your growth and makes you feel at peace with yourself and others. The knowledge that you can handle anything that comes your way is the key to allowing yourself to take healthy, life-affirming risks and overcome your fears. In conclusion, when you acknowledge your fears, take responsibility for your life, and then take the steps to overcome those fears, you will live a happier and more productive life.
Thank you very much, Jane. Very, very nicely done.
Thank
Very
you.
nicely done. Okay, moving right. Hello there. Hello.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm fine. Nice to see you again.
Oh yes, it's been a long time.
I know. I haven't seen you in hours.
Oh,
All right, Paul Scharf, our first District 83 governor. See, now they're all directors with the new terminology, but he, like me, is a governor, was a governor. All right, Paul, you're doing speech number 1 out of the Interpretive Reading Advanced Manual. It's called Read a Story, 6 minutes. Diane Vavuka is going to be your evaluator, and your title, I don't understand it, but sometimes I don't understand what older people say, so I'll just say it as you gave it to me. So I started it. What's next? Let's all welcome Paul Scharf.
I first have to give credit to where I'm reading this article from. It's a book called Conversations Made Easy, and it's written by our own director, Isaac Galbenovich. And I'm reading one of the chapters, which, as Fran said, the title is So I Started It, What's Next? We should be aware of the magic contained in a name and realize that this single item is wholly and completely owned by the person with whom we are dealing and nobody else. Remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. First of all, decide to remember. Use the following very simple techniques. Slow down, clear your mind, focus, and then repeat. Repeat, repeat. Sounds very simple, but in reality, very few people actually employ these techniques. It is very seldom that we are completely in the moment. Our brains process information much faster than anybody speaks or moves. So, guess where our brain is while our future conversation partner is giving us his or her name? Everywhere but right there and then. So when your conversation partner offers you his or her name, slow down, clear your mind, focus, and then repeat your partner's name. Repeat your conversation partner's name as it is given to you and as you shake his hand. This technique is called anchoring an information. Shaking hands and repeating a name gives our brains a hook and an anchor. Looking at someone with a glazed expression is not listening. Active listening implies participation in the conversation. You should react and listen for cues. People will tell you what they would like to talk about. You just need to learn to catch these cues in the conversation. React verbally and non-verbally. Be in the moment. Do not think how clever your next line will be. One way to show that you are listening is to reflect. Sum up the statement that your conversation partner made and continue with a statement of your own. Be careful not to fall into parroting. In one of my classes, I was talking to a student, let's call him John, and John told me that he gets very annoyed with his friends when they repeat word for word what he says. John was sure this meant that they were not listening. They heard him, but they did not listen to him. There is a big difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is psychological. Listening is social. When you are actively listening, you are showing a person that he or she is very important to you. When you show a person this and show that you are interested in what that person has to say, you instantly become liked and interesting. Two very important ingredients for a pleasant and fruitful conversation. So you're having a conversation. Verbal conversations seem self-explanatory. However, remember to contribute, not consume. If you only ask questions, you are consuming. You are contributing if you ask questions as well as express your opinion, your points of view, and observations. Conversations are always dialogue, not the 1,000 questions game. Verbal reaction is some short questions that fuel the conversation. Some explanations such as, "Oh, that's impressive. How did you do that?" is an interesting, "Tell me more." Let your conversation partner complete his or her story, then offer him or her your story, your experience, and with a similar or different situation. So, I started it. What's next? What's next after you hear his or her name? Adam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Paul. That's Isaac's book. Oh, okay. Thank you. Now we'll move on to Joan Maurizio. And Joan is a Distinguished Toastmaster 3. You're doing speech number 6, vocal variety. 6 minutes. Sue Brooks is your evaluator, and your title is Who Doesn't Like a Parade? Let's all welcome Joan Maurizio.
Fellow Toastmasters, trouble on the first word. Who doesn't like a parade? When we think of parades, we think of what's coming up, Memorial Day, what's happening today, Cinco de Mayo. St. Patrick's is very important. Think of all those hats we see in the Easter parade. And then there is the We Won the Pennant parade. There's the Rose Bowl parade, which is very, very pretty. It's got beautiful floats completely made of millions of flowers. And then there is the thing called the parade in New Orleans when a person dies. You see them with their trumpets and their tubas and their saxophones and all their little wind instruments, and there's the coffin and the band is playing behind them, and there's the family following them. And that was one of my first speeches, was what is the word fun doing in the word funeral? They have fun down there in New Orleans. Then there's celebrations that are really not parades, and we think of that when we see people at New Year's Day. That is just a get-together of people celebrating. They don't really parade about anything. Then there's your birthday, an anniversary, a newborn birth or christening. So you look at the bands, you hear them play, you see the people march, you see the beautiful floats, you see people dressed sometimes in costume or fit for the occasion. You see faces that are painted, flags that are flying, and so on. And that is the beauty of a parade, to be part of it. You can also watch it on TV at home, so you don't have to get involved if you can't walk too far. Some of these parades go miles at a time, and that's why the CEO or the Grand Master will sit in the car on the back of a limousine and just wave to the crowd, and everybody else has to walk the mile or two or three or four. But then there's another parade, and it comes to our house once a week on Sunday, and that is Parade Magazine. And I'd like to say a few things about Parade Magazine, because that's one of my favorite parades. One of the things I always liked when I was young about Parade Magazine was after the cover page, you had the second page, which was all about the stars. They asked questions about the stars. They answered to the best of their ability. Most of the times, you'd find something out about the star that you never knew. I'm not interested in Hollywood or the stars anymore. I'll never get there, that's for sure. But anyway, that's their life, and I have my own. What I do like about this is they've changed a few things. One thing they haven't changed was Ask Marilyn. And I think she's very efficient in the way she answers her questions. But the other thing I like is the specials they have. And here's one that's called For the Love of Dogs. And I certainly hope they had For the Love of Cats. There are so many pets we can have in this life. And dogs or cats are one of them. So that's very important. It tells you all the great things that there are about dogs and cats. Well, dogs anyway in that issue. I'm sure they covered cats. And they have an article now that's called Picks. And this one was all about sleeping and what sleep means and the different waves of sleep and all that. And what I liked is what they gave you ideas. There's lavender, where it's a lavender color which you can spray with the lavender essence and then get the feeling to go to sleep, because lavender is supposed to be very relaxing. That's why people have aromatherapy. They put the little aromatherapy pot there. They have the water with the infused essence of aromatherapy lavender coming out. And some people use other things that they like, other things that put them to sleep. But anyway, it's very hard to sleep these days with those smart meters. So, and another thing that I like that they added recently on the back was the Harbor Freight. They didn't used to be on the back cover all the time, but they started that in the last few years when they became very popular here. But one thing I want to point out, it's one of my favorite articles of all time, because if you got a really good look at this, this is from 1994, What People Make. And people's salaries have been put in this magazine since then. It's a yearly thing. They do it once a year, and I think it's wonderful because you really find out what people make. And then I saw the issue for this year, and I said, wow, almost 25 years later, here it is, what people make. And I just thought this was very interesting because I have people here that if they made that here, they may as well be on welfare. So I'm looking at some of these things, and I said to myself, wow, they couldn't possibly live in New York because the standard of living is so high here, they'd be out of the parade. But one of the things I like about this is it just shows you from year to year. And sometimes they'll actually put somebody that was a star when they first started out, and they were just doing their business, and they actually made more then because they were popular, $17 million a year. Wow, that's great. Now they're only making $3 million a year. Oh my goodness, what a standard they had to drop down to. But the funny thing about this is you'd be surprised at the things you could get into where you could make money. And even a person like me could do part-time jobs, 3 part-time jobs, maybe 3 hours here, 2 hours there, 4 hours there, and still make money. So people should never have to worry about money, especially in New York. But I encourage people to take out this section first. All right, maybe the comics first. But this section first, the Parade magazine and your Sunday paper. And if you don't get a copy, please borrow a copy from somebody that just throws it away at the end of the week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joan. And now our final speaker is Rachel Weiss. And Rachel, you're into the Storytelling Advanced Manual. Speech number 2, Let's Get Personal, 6 minutes. I happen to be your evaluator, and your title is The Storm I'll Never Forget. We've had so many storms this winter, I was trying to figure out which was the worst for you where you live up in Jersey from what we have here. So maybe it's not that kind of a storm at all, so I'll wait to be informed. Thank you. Rachel Weiss.
Thank you, Fran. As Jane pointed out before, there's always fear. And some of us have fear from storms. Some of us like to watch storms. And some of us get overwhelmed by storms. We have storms in our lives with relationships, but the storm I'm going to talk to you about is a weather-related storm, which Fran kind of reflected upon. The storm that I'm going to talk to you about happened in New York State. It happened up in the High Peaks region called the Adirondacks. My brother Martin, his friend Stephen, my friend Laurie, and I went on a backpacking event. It was a week-long trek in the woods. We had backpacks on that weighed 50 or 60 pounds because it was happening the last week of December, winter. And if you watched the last show, I told you one of my favorite seasons is winter. We're backpacking, and we're hiking up the mountains. There's lots of snow on the ground, and I learned for the first time why the trail markers in the spring are down here, but there are others that are way up there, because in the wintertime, snow is everywhere. Snow. Beyond your thought. Beautiful white with the green of the evergreen trees. And we're enjoying our hike, and we're going to the second highest peak in the Adirondacks, Mount Algonquin, 5,115 feet above sea level. As we're hiking, the trees are getting shorter and shorter and shorter until there are no more trees. We see rock, and instead of the blazes on the trees for us to follow, now there are little piles of rocks, or maybe someone painted a square of a color, yellow or green, to mark the trail. As we are continuing to climb up the mountain, we experience a storm. We've got beautiful blue skies and a sunshine, but as we're approaching the top of that peak, the storm is rolling over the top, and it's rolling over at us violently. It's what we refer to as a blizzard. 50 or 60 mile an hour winds with us on rock brought a whole new meaning to being between a rock and a hard place. The hard place being that wall of winter coming at our face. A blizzard means that a whiteout condition occurred. I couldn't see the 2 fingers in front of my face 1 inch away, much less those piles of rocks or the colored blazes that were painted on those rocks. There was nothing to protect us, and fear set in. Because on one side of the face of this Mount Algonquin is a cliff. On the other side, it kind of rolls away. And we had 3 choices. To stop and wait. Who knows how long a blizzard's going to last? Continue on, which means that we're going to be more exposed, and we're heading into the storm. Or 3, to turn around and backtrack. Well, the wind was so strong and the packs were so heavy that we were bowled over and fell backwards. So we had to roll over onto our sides and we had to crawl. I trusted my brother Marty because he was the lead. He was the one that was making sure we were going to get back to safety. And as we're going down, there was no trail. There was nothing to see. But eventually, we started to see the trees getting taller. And we made a camp, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The next morning, we woke up and found that we had made camp in the only spot far and wide that was flat. And we had about 2 or 3 inches, 2 or 3 feet of snow, not inches of snow, feet of snow, that we had to push out of the way to get out of our tents. That is a storm I'll never forget. It brought new meaning to a verse of Scripture, which is my life verse, Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your path. He watched out for us and gave us safety in the midst of the storm.
Wow. Thank you very much, Rachel. Very, very, very nice. Good. All right. And now we'll go to the evaluations. And again, I call Paul Paradise to come up and evaluate my spiel about mentoring.
Well,
Thank you.
Toastmasters, Fran. Well, Fran, I thought you gave a wonderful speech. It was especially meaningful to me because I'm a vice president of education for the Mile Square Toastmasters, and I have to do mentoring and mentees for my club. And what I really liked was all the wonderful anecdotes that you gave. And a few of them I'm going to reiterate. I especially liked your early one where you were telling about giving a speech and then you paused because your mentor came in. And I thought that was very, very interesting. It's kind of like a rookie mistake. And I liked the one where you were talking about Joan and you visiting the psychiatric center and you were all dressed in white. And I think you were mistaken for being one of the doctors there. And the other one that I thought that you gave, and all these two had a little dialogue in them, and you had wonderful voice projection and were kind of humorous about the lady where you were going to, I think it was Atlantic City, and you couldn't understand why she was upset, and it's because she didn't get a present because it was Mother's Day. And I think this is Mother's Day weekend right now. And then from that, you switched over to the mentees, and you gave it like a little profile what would make a wonderful mentee. And I had to agree with you right there. So overall, it was a wonderful, wonderful speech. The only thing that might have I would have enjoyed maybe a little bit about the pathways. That would have been meaningful to me, but that was understandable too because the pathways right now is just being unrolled, and perhaps the next time around we could talk a little bit more about mentoring pathways to talkers. But overall, I really enjoyed your speech. Thanks, Fran.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you. Appreciate that. And now Linda will evaluate Jane's speech.
Okay. Well, my role, as Fran said, is to evaluate Jane's speech on fear. And I thought it was a very well-organized and well-delivered speech. She gave us clear goals of how to overcome it, to acknowledge it, to take responsibility, and to take steps to deal with it. And one of the things that I did notice, because Jane asked me to think about it, was how her speaking tempo was. She had mentioned that she had to compress it into a shorter period of time. And I thought the speaking tempo was perfectly good. I had no trouble understanding at any time. And sometimes I know if we're stressed or have a lot of material, it can be tempting to speak too fast, as I'm rather tempted to do right now, for that matter. But in terms of the use of time, the constructive comment that I would make is that some of the material in the early parts of the speech, like the various things that we might fear, for example, got a little repetitive, and that I wasn't sure what the levels 1, 2, and 3 of fear meant, nor did I wasn't sure that it was really necessary to go there. What would have been helpful would have been personal anecdotes, something that Jane herself overcame. But having said that, I think that there was a lot of very valuable information in the speech and things that we can definitely put into practice. And I also wanted to mention that as I was sitting in the audience looking at Jane, I was thinking the whole time that she looked really good against the blue of the curtain. And I think that the outfit she used, the shit she wore, was well chosen. And overall, I think that when she sees the DVD, she's going to like the way she looked. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Linda. Okay, and let's see. Diane is going to evaluate Paul Scharf's speech. Thank you, Diane.
Hello, fellow Toastmasters and our studio audience and our other audience out there. Paul's speech was read a story, and he read a story. Wasn't really a story. He read a chapter from a self-help book. And I'm not one for self-help books overall. I don't love them. I read them occasionally, but I would go out and get Isaac's book now after his reading because it seems to contain a lot of very, very useful information. The themes were well understood. He used his voice extremely well, his voice and his tone, the volume and the emphasis. He even used stops and breaks to emphasize things, which is really good use of his voice. Did he build to the climax? Yes. I knew that it was all about listening. When he came to the part and he introduced listening, I knew here is the kernel of truth in this thing, in this story. The one thing that he didn't do that I would have liked some more movement. It was a little bit stiff. The voice was doing all the work, and you could have had your hands or your arms give a little bit of help to you. But maybe that's because I'm from New York. What did you like most? I liked the topic, and I love the way he uses his voice, the varied tone, the pitch, and the stops, and the volume. Excellent use of the voice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Diane. Now we have Sue evaluating Joan's speech. Having a lot of walking today, Sue.
Hello, Fran.
Hello.
I had the privilege and the pleasure of evaluating Joan's speech, Who Doesn't Like a Parade? I really enjoyed the way Joan started out describing all the various parades that come around during this time of year, Cinco de Mayo, upcoming Memorial Day parades, and Joan described in wonderful detail. Joan painted beautiful pictures, great visuals of the faces, the floats, the personnel, and the costumes. Joan, you did a beautiful job with that. And then one of the things that I really liked is when you slowed down and started to use some of the things that you were tasked to do with vocal variety. But you really surprised me when you pulled out Parade magazine and said that was one of your favorite parades that came to your house once a week. Joan, then you went on to tell us about Parade magazine and describe the things you liked, especially the monetary section. However, I thought you dwelled upon that part just a bit too much, and I would have, throughout the speech, much liked to have heard more vocal variety intertwined in the speech. Volume, loud and soft, speeding up and slowing it down, and all the other wonderful techniques that you apply throughout your speeches. That would have really emphasized it so much better. Thank you so much for a great speech, Joan. I did enjoy it. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Sue. Oh, thank goodness I had just enough time to do the evaluation. Okay, Rachel. I guess you're there. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, fine. My handwriting's sort of sloppy, but if there's anything you can't understand, you can send me an email. All right, you did. Let's get personal. I had no idea where you were going with the speech, but one thing was, what was the point of the story? Was it developed properly? How well did you do it? How did the plot? I said I enjoyed the whole idea of your speech from beginning to end. I really did. You had me drawn in. I thought it was just a nice trick with the four of you going up the mountain. It's not really for me. My playing days in the snow are long over, but I look at it out the window. It looks very pretty out there. But anyway, the next one, how did the story build? Well, it was the suspense. I think the suspense was the feeling I got out of this whole speech. You knew it was coming. There was a point where you knew it was coming, and there was a point where you realized you were going to be in trouble. And I thought you did an awesome job on that point. Were the characters developed? Well, this is a problem. I said you and Marty were developed as well, but I wondered what happened to Stephen and Laurie. Did they take another route? They weren't, from the beginning introduction, they were no longer mentioned. I wondered if they made it down with you or if they decided smartly to stay down there and let you trek up and see what was up there. I'm being very facetious at this point. Okay, how did the speaker use description and dialogue? I thought it was fantastic. Your gestures were fantastic. You went up there. You do something with your hands that I don't do. And I'm not arthritic, but she just has a fluidity. Don't question me on that. But I thought it was great. I could feel your fear. It is fear. When you're being assaulted by an avalanche, you have to be fear or you're just not there at all. And I thought you had great strength. I think your brother was a good lifesaver for you. I don't know what you would have done without your brother in the team. Let's just be happy that he's there. Now, at the end, how did your speech help me to help you better visualize, help me better to visualize the characters? I said, you might have brought some pictures. If you're going on a trip like that, I would have assumed you had a camera, or nowadays everybody has a phone that takes pictures, but having a nice picture, Peter could have put it up on the thing and we could have seen how bad it was. But I thought the best part of your speech, I think your tribute to God Almighty for seeing you safely back to where you had to be. That was done with passion. It was done with your vocal tone, your vocal variety. It just put it all in perspective. And I'm very happy I chose to do your speech myself. Nice job done. Okay. Now, her job done. She could tell me later if I made mistakes. And now, let's see, we did the table topics. And how much time is over there, please?
5:26.
I'm ready for another question.
Okay, good. Yes, I have just a couple of questions left here. All right. Thank you, Colleen. Oh, my goodness gracious. All right. No, that's already passed. All right, Joan, if you won $100, what would you do with it? Joan Marizio. And just 1 minute.
Giving thanks, tithe first. The first $10 goes to charitable services. It doesn't have to be a church. It could just be somebody you know that needs $10 to get by for the next day or two. Although in New York you need more than $10 to get by. But I think the rest I would try to have fun, maybe try to pay off one bill ahead of time, but try to spread the money around and enjoy it. You know, it's this $100. Just came from out of nowhere practically. And that's what I would do, Madam Table Topics Master.
All right, thank you.
Very interesting, intriguing question. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else who did not respond to a question on this show, please get up. Paul. Okay, Paul, let's see what I'd like to. All right, Paul. What is your next goal? Paul Paradise.
Okay. Well, Fran, as I think I was discussing with you earlier, I've been invited to be a speaker next Thursday at the New Jersey Association of Counties. And my topic is going to be the business crime of the 21st century, which is my specialty. So I'm looking very much forward to that. Governor Murphy is going to be a speaker as well. I'm just going to be a workshop presenter. But I'm going to be giving a slideshow presentation, and that's my next goal for sure.
Don't just say just a workshop presenter. That's a very
sorry.
big.
Yeah, it's a big
that
thing.
word just.
All elected county clerks, surrogates, sheriffs, elected officials will be at there.
Okay, very nice. I wish you a lot of luck. I hope you have nice weather, and I hope you have a nice suit and tie, and you.
Oh, I will.
And sneak in the word Toastmasters in there.
I will.
You know.
Thanks,
Okay.
Fran.
Thank you very much, Paul. Is anyone else on the list? There is another question here.
It'd be a good one.
Okay. All right. Let's see. All right, I have one here. If you wrote a book, what title would you choose for your book? Diane.
I've always wanted to write a book called How to Survive a Dysfunctional Office. How to Survive a Dysfunctional Office. Yes, because I think at work, most of our office relationships are as dysfunctional as some of our family relationships. And I will write it before I die. I don't know what year it will be, but I will write it. How to Survive a Dysfunctional Office. how to deal with crazy bosses, how to deal with crazy coworkers, all these things, how to survive a dysfunctional office. That would be my book.
Thank you. All right, is there one more person there? If not, Jane, you're going to get it.
Okay.
I don't see anybody. So, Jane, there are two here, and one is number 3 and one is number 4.
I'll take 4.
4. If you could change your vocation, what job would you choose?
This is something that I've been thinking about right now in my life. I've changed my vocation twice or 3 times in my life already. So if I could change my vocation, what would it be? I would love to be a TV creator. I would love to create TV shows. I have quite a number of them in my brain. The first one that always comes to my mind is the narcissist. I would love to create a show about narcissism because I feel it is so prevalent in our society right now. So I would love to be a creator of TV shows.
Very good. You see how easy it is to speak impromptu speaking, and that's what you learn in Toastmasters. But you seem to come to us with everything we're looking to teach you.
Well,
So,
I'm a work in progress.
we all are. We all are. We'll see what I do for my 30th anniversary as a Toastmaster. So you see what we do here, and I hope you'll
Yes.
come on as a regular.
Thank you.
Have some good times with us and fun with us, right?
Yes, this is wonderful. Thank you very much
Did
for
you have
having
another
me.
studio was here?
I knew there were studios on Staten Island, but I wasn't aware where they are.
This is the only one, C2B.
Okay.
It seems
So-
each borough is supposed to have one, or whatever the story is. But this
So-
is the one for here. And as I said, next month we'll be talking about our 14th year beginning.
That's
so
wonderful.
until next time, watch our shows on Channel 34, Spectrum, and FiOS. We're on every Saturday at 7 o'clock on Channel 34. And we're on several times during the week. I find this on commercials. The commercials get longer and longer and longer. You could write a book when you're watching commercials. But I go to 34, and I also go to 37 to see what's going on with my friends on 37. And I think that we're just about out of time. So just smile and wait until the music starts, I guess. I see somebody moving there, but I